Hello everyone and welcome to another video of mine. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the brand new next gen update of the Cyberpunk 2077 on the Xbox Series S and also on the PlayStation 5. We are also going to take a look at some of the changes that have actually come on the PlayStation 4 Pro, but not the PlayStation 4 Pro in detail because it's all about the next gen when it comes to this particular patch, which is patch 1.5. But before we get started, I would like to highlight a few points in case you're wondering why a Series S versus a PS5 comparison and why not a Series X versus a PS5. Unfortunately, I do not have a Series X. It's still very hard to get in 2022. It's unbelievable, right? And I can't believe I'm talking about the availability of a console which released more than a year back. Now, despite of the fact that I do not own a Series X, I have been fortunate to get my hands on the Series S, and like me, there may be a lot of folks who would prefer to try out both platforms. And what a better way than to have the entry-level current gen console in the Series S and also the PlayStation 5. This way I get to enjoy the current gen exclusives on both the platforms. Plus, this is not a technical review. I'm not a technical person, so kindly do not expect a technical analysis of these games. Now, the footage of these games have been taken out straight from the consoles without any capture device, and the HDR setting had been turned off on both the consoles. I would specifically like to point out that these games may look very different in person due to the different TV or monitor models we use and the HDR settings done on them. So if you're wondering what's the point of making such videos, well, I'd like to share my personal opinion and also like to find out yours. So it can be shared in the comment section, and if you are in luck, if you have technical people in the community, then they can share their 2 cents on the game through the comment section, and the entire community can benefit out of it. With that said, let's get started, folks. Let's get started with the Xbox Series S version. Now, if you see both these videos side by side, you can clearly see that the lens flare from the lights, they're all gone now. It's been replaced. Even the lighting rig is completely different to patch 1.31. Now, in terms of the colors, patch 1.5 now looks more punchier. The contrast ratios have been boosted up. So overall, the colors look way more saturated. In fact, the patch 1.5 version, even on the Xbox Series S, is very close to the PlayStation 5 version or the PS4 Pro version that we made a video on when we made a video on the patch 1.31. Now, in terms of the frame rates, there's not much that I can actually talk about because unfortunately, on the Xbox Series S, you have a default 30 FPS in 1440p with dynamic resolution scaling. It's not even a set 1440p, it's dynamic resolution, unfortunately. Let's now move on to a comparison between Xbox Series S and the PlayStation 5. Now, on the PlayStation 5, you have two modes. One is a ray tracing mode and one is a performance mode. On the ray tracing mode, you get 4K resolution, supposedly, according to PlayStation, but the overall resolution, I believe, was around 1440p. On the Xbox Series S, this hovered between 1440p and even 1080p because it was dynamic resolution, more or less in the 1200p range. But here, as you can see, the lighting in both the games looks slightly different. The PlayStation 5 definitely produces slightly brighter images, at least in the video that has been taken out from these consoles. But in terms of the frame rates, the ray tracing mode will also give you 30 FPS. So there's not much of a difference in terms of the ray tracing mode and the standard mode of the Xbox Series S. I mean standard because there's only one mode on the Xbox Series S. So a side-by-side comparison will give you an idea as to how it actually performs on the Xbox Series S versus the PlayStation 5. Now, if you are taking a look at it from a distance, it wouldn't matter, but from up close, it does make a difference, let me tell you that. All right, so on the PlayStation 5, as I was saying, performance mode, ray tracing mode, here it is side by side. Now, both the modes, performance and ray tracing, are supposed to work at 2160p, meaning 4K, but one runs at 30 FPS and the performance mode runs at 60 FPS. But here, if you take a look at both the videos side by side, there's not much of a difference between the performance and the ray tracing mode in terms of the resolution, meaning that there is negligible sacrifice that the performance mode makes in order to achieve that 60 FPS. And what exactly do I mean by that? I'm going to show you a side-by-side video comparing both performance and ray tracing mode and at this same level so that you get an idea as to how it's handling the resolution and frame rates. So let's quickly jump to that other video and take a look at it in slow motion. So here it is in slow motion. The performance mode, as you can see, is a silky smooth 60 FPS with dynamic 4K scaling. Means that overall you get a respectable 1440p in the performance mode. And even on the ray tracing mode, it's not like you're getting native 4K. The resolution is actually being upscaled from 1440p even in the ray tracing mode. However, I have to mention that some of the textures and some areas do look comparatively sharper. Now, I don't know if there is something going on there. Like I said, this is not a technical analysis, so I can't really pinpoint what is different about the ray tracing and the performance mode. Well, on paper, one is supposed to be 30 FPS and one is supposed to be 60 FPS, both upscaled to 4K. And I think the base resolution that it's working with is 1440p. But in my personal opinion, the performance mode definitely plays and looks better. So here is a comparison between the Xbox Series S and the PlayStation 5. And I picked up this particular scene because I also wanted to talk to you about the population of the NPC. Now, while I was talking about the previous patch 1.31, it was pretty obvious that the Xbox Series S still had more number of NPCs in the background. And I think even in this particular scene, that trend continues because as you can see, the population of the NPCs is comparatively more on the Xbox Series S compared to the PlayStation 5. However, the lighting works very differently because please note that the Xbox Series S does not have ray tracing mode. It does not even have ray traced local shadows, but the PlayStation 5 definitely benefits from it. And in terms of sharpness, of course, the PlayStation 5 is going to be better compared to the Xbox Series S. Okay, now talking about the driving mechanism, and for the driving mechanism, I have only chosen the performance mode on the PlayStation 5 because, hey, on the Xbox Series S, you only have one mode, so I can't really compare performance versus performance on the PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox Series S. Now, in terms of the feel that you get while you're driving around in Night City, of course, the PlayStation 5 will give you a better experience because of the silky smooth 60 FPS that you're getting. And visually, it definitely is the better one in this comparison. And I know it's not a fair comparison. Technically, I should be comparing it to the Xbox Series X, but I don't have the X, unfortunately. Now, the Series S holds up decently, although it's 1440p. Let me tell you that it does not look that bad on a 4K television because it's still upscaling on your 4K television. The only difference is that it's upscaling from a lower base resolution. In this case, I believe between 1080p to 1200p, whereas the PlayStation 5 is upscaling from a base resolution of 1440p, so it could even be slightly higher. But overall, I think that the picture looks sharper and crisper on the PlayStation 5. And in terms of resolution and in terms of frame rates, of course, the PlayStation 5 gives you a better experience. Now, it's not just the visual changes that have come on your PlayStation 5. This time around, it also brings in spatial headphone audio, which previously was added on the Xbox Series X and the S version. But with this 1.5 update, you get spatial audio on PlayStation 5. Apart from that, it even benefits from the DualSense controller features. And you get a little more haptic feedback, and you can clearly make that out while you're driving around because the feedback from the controllers is a little heavy. You know, when you press that button, you can feel it on your PlayStation controller. So it's a big improvement on PlayStation overall. Okay, so I did mention that I will talk about the PlayStation 4 Pro as well, but only this segment. Now, this is patch 1.5 on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and I'm comparing it with the performance mode of the PlayStation 5. Now, the reason why I chose this particular section is because when I made a video on patch 1.31 as well, I commented on the number of NPCs on the PlayStation 4 Pro and how it was comparatively inferior to the Xbox Series S because there were hardly any NPCs and Night City was comparatively empty when compared to the Xbox Series S. Now, on patch 1.5, things have not really improved on the PlayStation 4 Pro when it comes to the NPCs, but I have to tell you that PlayStation 5 has definitely shown some improvement when it comes to the count of NPCs on screen. So Night City feels a little more livelier than before. So patch 1.5 definitely brought in more NPCs, when it comes to PlayStation 5. Now, of course, there have been multiple improvements visually, and there is that 60 FPS difference that you see on screen. But here, just take a look at the PlayStation 5 screen as to how many characters, non-playable characters, are in the background, whereas the PlayStation 4 Pro, in this case, seems to be barren. There's hardly anything there. So it's not just the quantity of NPCs that has changed with patch 1.5, but there have been improvements to their positioning. There has been improvement to their reaction as to how they react. So there's a lot that has changed when it comes to the NPCs, especially the combat AI I'm talking about. And the crowd improvements have also been significant when it comes to your PlayStation 5 version and the patch 1.5. So, for instance, there is something like time skips. They affect the state of NPCs, as well as they reset the state of the devices, environments, and certain scenes. There are improved crowd reactions overall on your PlayStation 5 and even on your PlayStation 4 Pro. But it's just that quantity. It just feels like it's a much livelier city when it comes to the PlayStation 5 version of this particular game. So patch 1.5 is a big improvement when it comes to PlayStation platform. Xbox Series S has definitely seen improvements, but I think PlayStation benefits more from patch 1.5. So kudos to CDPR for that. Okay, if I haven't already mentioned this, I would like to mention it now that the load times have significantly improved on both your PlayStation 5 and on your Xbox Series S. So gone are those long wait times. Now you just press the button and you're instantly in the game. And while I am concluding this video, I would like to mention that overall, there have been a lot of improvements. Even if I talk about the drive model, there's a new braking system, there's an engine simulation improvement, there's a gearbox simulation improvement. Motorcycles have improved overall. There have been tune improvements to various cars. So overall, there's so many improvements that have actually come with the patch 1.5. In fact, even the game difficulty, even on the easy mode, the game is more challenging now. And I've personally experienced this, so I can definitely say that it is comparatively more challenging even on the easy mode. Now, with that said, you will be definitely impressed with the kind of changes that have come about in patch 1.5. If this was the game that we would have got while this game was launched, well, the history of Cyberpunk 2077 would have been very, very different. But hey, it is what it is. The good news is that at least we have patch 1.5. And I did not experience any major frame drops. Well, there were a few, but not anything major. Overall, this is a very stable update, and I would like to commend CDPR and the developers there. So with that said, it's a wrap for this one. Before I go, do hit that like and subscribe button if you have liked the content, and also that bell icon in case you want to get notified with all my latest videos, and subscribe and share it with your friends. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, and may God bless you all.